Hello, the Puckleheads. We're back. Post debate. I'm no longer sitting in front of my bed. I'm now sitting in my backyard, and it looks like Connell has not moved since we last podcasted.
I've been sitting here pretty much for the past few weeks here. That's about it. This is my home. This is.
Have you been getting food at least in the same spot? I mean, it seems you're drinking water. Which
yeah, just your basic hot pockets and pretty simple basic stuff. No, I've been once in a while I go up for food. Some roasted almonds have been my snack choice of late. So trying to eat healthy, all that fun jazz.
Absolutely. Looks like you've gotten some color too. You look pretty tan.
I probably just always red, so that's about it. Just always red a little bit. Yeah, that's about it.
Well, it was 100 degrees here in the Bay Area today, so I'm currently wearing a tank top too.
That's awesome. It's been pretty cool down here. Actually, it's been nice. It's today with high of 71. It's probably 50 something outside right now.
That's not bad. It's the ideal
fall weather. It's the weather I like. So
I do miss the four seasons as it were. But, plenty of time to talk about the weather. Not plenty of time to talk about the World Cup. Connell, a lot went on. I don't really know where to begin, so I think I'm going to begin with the red, white, and blue elephant in the room, the flameout of Team USA that I don't want to say we predicted it, but we basically described the worst-case scenario in our preview for the round robin of the World Cup of Hockey when we last recorded a couple weeks ago. Everything we described, it could happen, happened.
Yeah, it was an all-out disaster for the U.S. I mean, when you talk about worst-case scenarios, I mean, that was maybe even worse than the worst-case scenario because not only did they lose, their opening game to Europe, lost to Canada. I mean, they got embarrassed. And then, finishing off with just a flop of performance against the Czech Republic, who's just not a good hockey team. The U.S. scoring only 5 goals in 3 games, allowing 11. They were dysfunctional. They were outplayed. They were outcoached. They were out-talented, if that was even a word. I don't even know the proper word there. But in every aspect of the game, the U.S. Hockey team was a disaster. And, I think almost shame on us for maybe giving them more credit than they even deserve going into the tournament. I thought we maybe at least kind of dating back to Sochi in 2014, we figured, all right, well, and I at least made it to, the semifinals there. We figured, all right, at least they could kind of backdoor their way into it with at least a win against the Czech Republic, and then maybe Jonathan Quick steals a game against Team Europe, and you find your way into the second round. But it was a disaster. But in some ways, and I think it's honestly a blessing in disguise for USA Hockey because I think they needed this. You hope they're willing to change their philosophies going forward. And if this doesn't change their philosophies going forward, then you might as well just give up hope because this is the worst that could have happened. They got embarrassed on national TV. It was the best of the best. They had left so much talent at home for this team that was designed to beat Canada. And in reality, I saw a tweet about it. They just put a team that couldn't beat anybody. So so it was ugly from start to finish for Team USA. The defense was bad, as we could predicted. Jonathan Quick didn't play that well. Nobody seemed to score. No chemistry to an extent. It just looked like a lot of the guys didn't want to be there. And Dustin Byfuglien confirmed that with his recent comments.
Yeah, today he said it was pretty much awful.
Yeah, he said he didn't really enjoy his experience and that he didn't really feel like being there. So that just shows what a farce this turned out to be for Team USA.
I mean, you hit it nail on the head. Everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. The thing I think that worries me, because we could beat the horse to death about the performance all we want, but the fact of the matter is that they intentionally took a team that was worse than it could have been, just so they could, beat Canada. They were so singularly focused on beating Canada that I think everyone else in the tournament had a bit of that focus, but no one really gave it away quite like the United States did. I wrote about this on Fear the Fin. They also that 96 team was supremely talented, and to act like it wasn't is kind of absurd. To act like it was a ragtag group of guys when it had Mike Modano, Brett Hull. Jeremy Roenick could have been on the roster, but he wasn't because he was out of contract at the time.
Yeah, Brian Leach, Darian Hatcher. I mean, Pat LaFontaine was on your fourth line on that team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Tony Omonte. I mean, that team was so good. And even guys who had a good little stretch run there, like a Joel Otto or like an Adam Deadmarsh, who for like 4 or 5 years are like 56-point scorers in the NHL.
Yeah.
That was right in that time frame. Yeah, for someone to make the argument that the '96 team was like this ragtag group of guys is a complete joke. There's U.S. Hockey Hall of Famers on that roster. There's multiple NHL Hall of Fame guys on that roster. Conn Smythe Trophy winners, MVPs. That roster was so much better than this one. And I understand, the U23 team took some things away from. Maybe they lost a few guys, but as I threw out a tweet last week and was talking about. Between Paul Stastny and Justin Falk and Keith Yandel and Tyler Johnson and Chris Kreider. There's a million guys I could list. I listed 8 or 9 there that they left off the roster who are so much farther talented than this group they brought forward. There was the Team B you could have put together that arguably was better than the Team A.
I don't think it's an argument. I think it's clear.
It was a disaster for U.S. You only hope that management finally gets it, and I still don't know if they do. So
I worry they don't, because you have Sports doubling down, you have Lombardi doubling down. I don't think either of them are going to be involved, but we like Brian Burke, we like what he's brought to the game of hockey, but you got to clear out the cobwebs. And he's a senior advisor to the team. He's a cobweb. Paul Holmgren was fired in his last NHL general manager job, and he's helping to make these decisions. Dean Lombardi completely indicated that he has no idea why the Los Angeles Kings are as good as they are. Like, he pretty much thinks they're good because of Dustin Brown and Kyle Clifford, and not because of Drew Doughty, Anze Kopitar, and the performances of Jonathan Quick. An embarrassment at all levels. And we got to talk, too, about the night that Phil Kessel burned Team USA so badly that I don't know if they'll ever be able to recover as an organization. How ironic is it that players that were gritty and tough are offended by tweets?
Well, that was like as soon as I left Phil Kessel on his name before, I meant he should have been the first time I left. I'm going to bring up the tweet just so I don't read it wrong to begin with. But
you got to credit yourself.
It's an absolute joke. Everyone to get offended by something. Phil Kessel is within his absolute right. I think anybody on that roster, I understand that they're frustrated and they're embarrassed, which they should be. But at the same time, Phil Kessel should be on that roster. I think a lot of the guys on that team know how good of a player Phil Kessel is. And to think otherwise is just ridiculous. And the fact that they felt insulted by that, just because someone's in the same field as you, they can't critique you. That's just ridiculous. These guys.
He wasn't even critiquing them. I felt
he was basically just taking a shot at the management group, and and he's entitled to that opinion, and he's allowed to do that, just as the media does all the time. So why then a player also can't say that is ridiculous. And I thought it was also great that Chris Chelios and Brett Hull just completely ripped apart this team when the last game, which was hilarious. I didn't even watch much of the game, but I was reading some of the comments and we're flipping back and forth and watching them a little bit. Which I found just hysterical. I thought it was so great that they did it. These two guys who were never afraid to speak their mind while they were playing, and 2 Hall of Famers, 2 all-time greats, American-born players as well. Just ripping this team apart. If that doesn't say something to your face right there, then I don't know what will, if you're a USA Hockey ambassador, so to speak.
We were very critical of them early on. I think they've certainly found their legs as the tournament's gone on. I think the broadcasts have gotten a lot better, and I think Chelios and Hull have gotten a lot better in their analysis. I like that Brett Hull's carved a niche out as I think Ryan Lambert put it this way, the Mike Milbury that I agree with. I think it's been a great niche for Brett Hull. Chris Chelios has, I think, gotten more comfortable too, but they were dead on. They were completely accurate in their assessment. And, if it's as clear to us as it is to everybody else, hopefully USA Hockey gets the message. But, you brought up the under-23 guys who we'll talk about next, but, seeing some of these decisions, even if they were available, Brian Burke's part of a management group that's not paying Johnny Gaudreau. I don't think Johnny Gaudreau would have even been blocked to make the team. He should have been, but I don't think he would have been. Austin Matthews, they would have said was too young. Jack Eichel, they probably would have said didn't earn it. the same stuff we've heard about keeping out young, talented players just would have been applied to a larger talent pool. I don't buy the argument at all that they would have used the talent pool. They should have. There's 6 guys on that U23 team that are better than guys that are currently on the roster, but I don't think they would have.
Yeah, and it's funny you bring up. I always said Brian Burke is a walking contradiction when it comes to political and like social beliefs compared to his. Because in like the social world, I mean, having a gay son who unfortunately passed away, and
Yep.
Brendan Burke, I mean, all for the let him play and all that stuff, and having very socially aware and
Very forward thinking in that sense.
and civil rights and whatnot. He's very open to it, but then he's got these old school beliefs when it comes to hockey. I always think about that. I'm like, Berkey, like if you just like tweak yourself a little bit, you'd be in great shape when it comes to your business here. But yeah, you hope it wakes up. By the way, the Phil Kessel tweet was during the U.S. Canada game, I believe. Yeah.
Yes, immediately after.
Yeah, just sitting around my house tonight with my dog. Felt like I should be doing something important, but couldn't put my finger on it. So that was Phil Kessel throwing a little bit of shade, some low key shade.
I mean, you want to talk about gritty and tough. This guy's a cancer survivor. Like acting like he is not like hardworking or doesn't try. This guy's overcome like a lot of crap. He's overcome cancer. And act like that guy is not like I don't get it. I don't get it.
I don't know. I never will, frankly.
Speaking of a team we do get, and we were so happy to see, that's Team North America. I think it's fair to say that even though they didn't win the tournament, they certainly won our hearts. I mean, what a performance. Really 6 bad minutes is what did them in against Russia when they allowed 4 goals. And you see what happened to Matt Murray out with a broken hand, and you wonder, did that happen in that game? Is that why he was so off? I question a little bit some of the coaching decisions with that team, specifically not starting Gibson on the second night of that back-to-back in the first place, and then not telling the team that they needed to win in regulation in order to ensure they advanced, although that did give us what I think was the greatest overtime period I've ever seen in the history of hockey.
It was a lot of fun. That overtime was awesome, and I have be the first to admit, talked about it when we had the radio show up at Syracuse. I wasn't the biggest proponent and fan of 3-on-3 at first. I wasn't really sure. I was definitely hesitant. I think as the NHL season went along, it sort of grew on me a little bit, and I said if I ever needed something to put me over the top, it was that 3-on-3. That was as exciting as it gets. Back and forth they go. Great saves on both ends of the ice. Great chances on both ends of the ice, and end with McKinnon there. I really wish that actually sent them to the next round. It would have made it even better.
I know.
It was.
I think
fun, and it sucks that they got kind of short. Got eliminated. Short end of the stick there. And they were so much fun to watch. I think it would have really helped had they made it through the next rounds. It was just one of those tiebreaker scenarios in this tournament. And like I said, they had 6-7 bad minutes against Russia, and that kind of did them in. It shows you in a short tournament, anything bad like that could happen. But Team North America was a fun experiment. I loved watching them play. They were just it was honestly almost felt like a privilege to watch those guys play. They were so fast, so talented, so young and passionate and enthusiastic as they were playing. You wonder if they do decide to do a 2020 World Cup of Hockey, if that team's going to be still in existence. There's a couple guys that could technically still play on that team again, although McDavid has gone on the record saying he would like to play for Canada the next one. You wonder if maybe there's 1 or 2 exceptions, if they're repeat guys or something like that. Maybe you could make a rule in that aspect. But hell, man, you could give me a U23 team for Europe and North America. Maybe I'd be excited both ways. It was a blast to watch.
I think I read today that they're leaning towards going with 8 single countries at the next World Cup. I think that'd be a shame. We were certainly cynical of Team North America, but they won us over with how well they've played. Who knows if that next generation at the next one would be as talented as this one, but I think the concept is perfect. I like the renegade kind of nature of it. And, I think this tournament showed that those teams that we thought would be gimmicks were anything but. Especially in the case of Team Europe, who we'll talk about later. But I want to talk about a team that we were also very high on before the tournament, who we both picked to be in the final that is currently not there, and that's Team Sweden. And I think you could make the argument that if the United States hadn't flamed out, that this would be easily the most talked about team in terms of disappointment, and I think I'd make the argument that they're the most disappointing team in the entire tournament. We saw what came coming with the United States. I did not see this coming with Sweden, especially with how well Lundqvist was playing early on in the tournament, how stacked their blue line was. Where do you think it went wrong for the Swedes?
Yeah, well, first of all, I agree with you. I think they're a bigger disappointment than the U.S. because I felt like we could pretty easily predict what was going to happen with the U.S. We kind of figured that if they got a bad loss there against Europe, they were screwed. What went wrong? Their scoring seemed to dry up there. They did not have the goal support that I think we expected them to have. Their goaltending defense was still pretty solid, but what a disappointment Sweden really. I'm serious. I mean, I couldn't believe that Sweden didn't advance into the next round and into the finals. I thought that was almost a lock, and as good as team Europe played against them, I still figured Sweden would pull out that game. Their goal scoring dried up. I mean, there's no other way to say it. I thought Lundqvist played very well. I mean, you lose 3-2 in overtime. I mean, that's a good game, but it almost seems I wouldn't want to challenge them in this, but I mean, they seem very nonchalant in their play a little bit. I thought their effort level wasn't where I expected it to be, maybe, for some of the players in the team, and I think maybe that shows that some of these guys did see this tournament as maybe a bit more of a gimmick and not really going to go all out here. I mean, you already seen some injuries coming up here. I mean, Marian Gabbert got hurt. Matt Murray got hurt. Aaron Ekblad got hurt. So you don't want to see those things happening for these guys. And maybe they took their foot off the gas a little bit too early, Marcus. I don't know if I could pinpoint one thing, but I think they're the biggest disappointment in the tournament by far, actually.
I think that's completely fair. I mean, I'm looking at the Natural Stat Trick, which is a developing website that if you're looking for game by game advanced stat logs, that's going to be your go-to. They're soon to enter the general fanager echelon of need to know websites for hockey fans. But you look at the period by period performance. Sweden dominated the first period. You want to talk about taking your foot off the gas. Europe was able to get back in the game because of how well they played in the second period. I mean, at the second period, they dominated, shot attempts at even strength and in score-adjusted situations. This was a team that probably wasn't going to, be considered to be able to hang with Sweden. And I think it's totally fair to say that Sweden took the foot off the gas against them, especially when you look at the second period. I mean, they were shelled possession-wise. Yes, they took it to North America, or excuse me, they took it to Europe in the third period when they eventually tied the game. But, we've been saying it the whole time. A team with a hot goaltender in this tournament is going to have a really good chance. And Yaroslav Halak has turned back the clock in this tournament. He looks like he did in 2010 when he nearly carried the Habs to the Stanley Cup final. I mean, this is I think you hit the nail on the head. This is the most disappointing team. And I think, knowing that this could be Daniel and Henrik's last ride, seeing what's on their roster, seeing how old Lundqvist is, this has got to be a major disappointment for Sweden internationally. I'd say probably up there with not medaling in 2010 in Vancouver.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's sad to see with such a talented roster. You wonder what could have been here for sure. But we look at then the team that took their place, played their hearts out. I mean, you want to talk about a team playing a little bit of the underdog in Team Europe here, Marcus. I don't think we expected too much of them. Not that they didn't have that much talent. They had a few, goal scorers there, of course, and Tatar and Gabrick and whatnot, but didn't expect them to make the run they did. And like you said, hot goalie Yara Halak was unbelievable. And they kind of band together and have a little chip on their shoulder here. Go all the way to the finals. They get 4 points in the group play, beating the Czech Republic as they should, and then beating Team USA. And I don't know if it was an upset, but I mean, at the same time, they definitely weren't the favorites going into that game. Marcus, do you think? Yeah, and I was wondering this as I was watching the highlights of the Europe-Sweden game the other day, and I was wondering. I mean, the chip on the shoulder thing. I mean, do they not? Is it a? I'm trying to think of the words to put here. As far as different countries coming together, is there a common bond for them that they can beat Canada? Is there this underdog thing that no one believed in us? We're just gonna almost not care at all and just play the way we can and go from there?
I mean, you can't underestimate a scorned professional athlete. I think that's you don't want to give these guys motivation. I mean, in order to get where they are, these are some of the most motivated men and among the most motivated men and women on the planet.
Yeah, yeah.
And, I wrote about this before, but, you mentioned the chip on their shoulder. They have a chip on their shoulder the size of a continent. The NHL basically said to all these players, respectively, your current countries aren't good enough to be in this tournament. Like, be glad that you're here playing for Team Europe. And I think Ralph Kruger's done a hell of a job channeling that. I think he's turned that into like a legitimate, motivator for them. And plus you have guys like Dennis Seidenberg and Christian Ehrhoff who are playing really well. And, they're playing for NHL jobs. They currently haven't caught on with a team yet. Maybe playing this late has hurt them and they might have to catch on late with a team. But I think they've both shown that, at the very least, they're worth a shot with an NHL team. They've gotten contributions from up and down their lineup. Zuccarello has been great. Leon Draisaitl has been a revolution.
Draisaitl's been, I think, one of the bright spots in this entire tournament. He's been very good to watch and a good player to begin with, but he's probably playing above his pay grade right now.
And I think, he's a guy that we probably have to watch, a little more this season. I mean, I admit I was skeptical about Draisaitl. I saw his numbers with Taylor Hall and without Taylor Hall, and they weren't very impressive. But, right now he's showing like he's a player that isn't going to just be dependent upon Taylor Hall, and that'll be really big for Edmonton. But, this is a team that, I think they're a little deeper than people give them credit for, and plus they have, arguably the two best players at their respective positions in the entire tournament. They have Roman Josi, who I think you can definitely argue is the best defenseman in the tournament, and same with Anze Kopitar as the center. Now, we'll talk about Canada, and I don't think that Kopitar has been the best player in the tournament by any means, but, on his day, he's a top 3 player in the world, if not a top 3 player in the world already. And, we talked about Halak. He's been money. And in these short tournaments, like, that's all you need. You're not playing a 7-game series. You just need to win one game. I think they've embraced that, and they've embraced the opportunity. And I think, I don't know if Ralph Kruger is going to leave the comfortable confines of Southampton Football Club as their chairman, but you got to think he's on some coaching radars for sure.
Absolutely. And why wouldn't he be? I mean, he's done a ridiculous job in bringing a group of guys who, other than, like you said, being on the same continents, I mean, don't necessarily have a ton in common. A lot of these guys' native languages aren't even close to each other. So I think it's a pretty
English with each other.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool, to be honest. And I'm actually very pleasantly surprised and pleased, and good for Team Europe, really. I mean, everyone, including us, were not very high in them going into this tournament. And they proved something to all of us here. And honestly, just a good collection of guys who have enough talent, I think, and then a couple guys play a little bit better than anticipated, and all of a sudden they're there. So as we get to it now, Marcus, as they're going to be playing Team Canada here in the finals, a best-of-3 series. Team Canada pretty much steamrolled their way through the tournament as we expected, and I think we both were hoping for an upset in the semifinals. I think – to me, the only teams that really had a chance to beat them were either Sweden or North America. They're not going to have a chance to play either. Does Team Europe stand a chance here? Best of 3 series. They got to beat Canada twice. Can they? Maybe once. Can they do it twice?
I think they can do it once. I don't think they can do it twice. Yeah. I'm looking at the tournament right now. The top 4 scorers are Canadian. 5 of the top 7 are on Team Canada. 6 of the top 8 are on Team Canada. This is a team that's getting contributions from up and down its lineup. No one can compete with the depth. And, I joked about it in some of my recaps, asking the question, is Sidney Crosby still the best player in the world? He's proven it this tournament. There's been a lot of talk about how, Crosby's not that good at international competition. He has been every bit as good as advertised. And, that Marchand, Crosby, Bergeron line has been the tournament's best line. And that's a handful. And then you roll out, Jonathan Taves and Steven Stamkos and John Tavares on your second line. And then you roll out your third line. And then, by the way, Joe Thornton's on the fourth line. They're just steamrolling teams with their depth. Now, that being said, it is a short series. I think as a series, it's a little tougher to say that Europe can beat them, because I think Europe can definitely get one game. But we saw Russia frustrate them through 2 periods and keep the game close with some good goaltending. Then, Canada just overwhelmed them. if Europe can bend but not break, and this goes against all of my beliefs about puck possession, but if Europe can bend but not break defensively and frustrate Canada, I think they've got a real shot. They have to win that first game if they're going to win.
That's the key to it here. I don't see them being able to win. I don't see them being able to win this series to begin with, but if you're going to have any chance, you need a bit of a mental psyche, a little bit of a mental edge here. You got to somehow steal that first game, and then you kind of figure it out from there, so to speak. Hope something fluky happens, and you survive, basically. I don't see them out-possessing Canada by any means, but it's not a long-term thing. They're not playing any 2 games. They're playing 3, so it's not out of the realm of possibilities here. But I do expect Canada to win it. Honestly, I probably expect Canada to win it in 2 games, but I think Europe could steal a game here, which would be good for them. I think it only is going to benefit them absolutely going forward. And we talked about the Crosby-Marchand line there. I mean, how much does these 4 games Marchand has played with Crosby impact that ludicrous of a contract he just got here? What do you get? What do you get? 8 years, 49 million. I mean, just absolutely crazy. That is going to be. Brad Marchand's a very effective NHL player, and for I would say no more than $5 million, I could take him. But oh my God, I cannot believe that contract. I almost
8 years.
I woke up. Was it this morning or yesterday? And I saw that contract, and I just did like a triple take. I couldn't believe it.
I don't think the cap hit is that bad if it was like a 5-year deal, but it's 8 years. And I joked about this today. I think the absolute reason that he was signed to this contract is because they were terrified of the possibility of him leaving for Pittsburgh. I mean, this is classic Boston.
I think that was a legitimate scare, absolutely. Our other third buckle, like Cole Zimmerman, was tweeting about it, and he put out a good scenario where, you could probably get rid of Kunitz, and then you bring in Marchand. I mean, that could absolutely happen. And then Marchand, turns into a perennial all-star just because he's playing with Sid up there.
But how classic Bruins is it that after, what is essentially 7 games, 4 within the tournament of them having chemistry and him ascending to the ascendancy, do they then overreact to a narrative? And because, we have no indication of what went on in the boardroom, but I think it probably went something like this. They saw the comments, and then they just said, give him what he wants. Just give him what he wants. Give him 8 years. Give him 49, whatever. Give him what he wants. We cannot afford to lose another talented forward. Because can you imagine if they had – first they trade Joe Thornton. I know it's separate management. Then they trade Phil Kessel. Then they trade Tyler Seguin. And then they let Brad Marchand walk. Like, that would not have – that would not have flown. I think he's a very good player. I think, as good as he's been and as good of a scorer he is, I almost think that, Crosby and Bergeron have done a little bit of the heavy lifting on that line. And that's not to say that Marchand's a bad fit at all because, we've seen how good Crosby can make players, but I don't think he can make every player as good as he's made Marchand in this tournament. I think that takes a special player to begin with. But, 8 years – That's a little bit of a. I think that's a pretty awful contract.
How giving out? And Marchand is how many years old?
He's going to be 36 at the end of the deal. You're you're betting on him being as good as Joe Thornton as was last year as a 36-year-old.
Yeah, and Marchand doesn't have that track record, so I don't necessarily see that happening. It's a hefty contract. I think for a few years here, you'll probably be okay. I'm very curious to see how the back end of that deal works, although that's seemingly how every contract is nowadays. You're always working the back end with these 7-8 year deals going through here.
Well, Connell, we got to talk about the other contract elephant in the room. He was competing at the World Cup of Hockey, so it fits. Jacob Trouba handing in a trade request.
Oh, man, fingers crossed.
Winnipeg Jets. He's stuck behind Dustin Byfuglien, which makes sense, but also stuck behind Tyler Meyer, which doesn't really make a lot of sense.
Nope.
Winnipeg here has no leverage. The player's unsigned. I don't know the rules, so I don't know if it's still possible. But knowing that this player has put in a trade request, how has nobody offer sheeted him?
That's the first thing I thought of. I'm like, oh my God, someone just tender him like right now. Just do it. Just do it. Like,
they're not going to say no.
Oh my God. Oh, It's the first thing I thought of. He's an RFA. They want, a comparable player if they're going to trade him. He's only 22 years old. He's already played, 2 or 3 seasons in the NHL. I mean, he's a very good hockey player. But seriously, I mean, he's asking, he's going to ask for a decent contract, tender him. Instead of – it's basically your choice. If a team has it, if you don't want to give up a roster player, you suck it up. And if it's a big contract, you're going to be giving up like a first and a second and maybe a third-round pick from the next draft. I mean – You know what? If it's a player that you're willing to invest in and you want to go give Jacob Trouba a 7-year contract right now, and you could afford to do it with the draft picks you have, and if you've done a good enough job lately, there's no reason you shouldn't be doing it. Especially if you're an Eastern Conference team or if you're a Western Conference team, one of the rivals who really want to screw them over. I mean, people who, why not? Like we talked about how, a team like Edmonton or Minnesota, they're not going to be trading with Winnipeg anyway. So who gives a crap if you mess up a little personal issues with them? It's ridiculous to me. We'll see how that lays out. It really doesn't happen in hockey, but maybe there's like a sign and trade. So you know what I mean? Like there's got to be. There's a little bit of risk if you're going to trade for Trouba that he's still going to hold out and wait for a contract. So you kind of have to have some guarantees if you're going to do that. But hey, if you just want to negotiate them straight up, just go tender him and give him an offer right now. I mean, you're legally allowed to do it. So,
I mean, I look at a team like New Jersey with $12 million in cap space and 14 forwards signed and only 5 defensemen, and I'm wondering why they're not making an offer sheet. There's a lot of teams that I think would be good fits if they don't make offer sheets. A team like Dallas, I wonder if they have the assets. I'm not sure. A team like Arizona, I think would be a really good fit for Trouba. I think, he fits their profile and, with all the assets they've acquired just by basically taking on terrible contracts, they could probably make something happen there. Do you think the Rangers are going to be in on Trouba? Do you think they have what it takes to get him?
I think, there's 2 things. One, I think if you're one of the 29 NHL GMs that aren't the Winnipeg Jets, you've already failed at your job if you're not calling about Jacob Trouba. The Rangers, I think it was NBC, the hockey coverage, they put out a little article, I think it was yesterday, about 4 teams who should be in on Trouba. The Rangers are definitely one of them. Rangers do not have the draft. Well, I mean, technically speaking, now they have the draft picks that they wanted to tender him, but I don't think they can afford to give up another first-round pick for the guy. Rumors from Bob McKenzie are saying they want a 1-for-1 deal. I think if you're the Rangers, I was discussing it, you would have to, if you're going to pull off the deal, you'd have to convince them to take Mark Stahl, and the Rangers would probably have to retain maybe 30% of that contract, and then you'd trade them a JT Miller, a Jimmy Vesey. You'd have to give up somebody pretty substantial to get him, especially if you're going to add on the Stahl contract with it. The Rangers are so deep at forward this year that honestly, I would do it in a heartbeat with anybody. I would trade anybody on the roster right now who's not named McDonough. That's about it. Wow. He's the only guy I wouldn't move. Maybe Lundqvist too, obviously in the back there. But any of the forwards, I would happily move for Trouba, and you kind of just would have to hope Stahl gets in there. Dallas was mentioned in that article. You wonder if Dallas could pull it off. You wonder if a team like Anaheim could pull it off, or even Boston, who's now in need of defensive depth there. Or does a team that has a lot of cap space like New Jersey, or we always talk about Carolina or Phoenix or somebody like that, throw in a tender? And Edmonton wants to keep improving that back end, man. It would make a lot of sense to me if they threw in a tender for him and offered him a contract.
See, I wonder if a team, you mentioned Dallas, you mentioned Anaheim, you mentioned the Ducks. They have an unsigned player right now too. Sam, is it Vatanen or Lindholm who's unsigned?
I think it's Lindholm, but I'm not positive. I'll double check.
I think, if it doesn't really look like either deal is getting done right now, and they also have Richard Raquel unsigned as well. I mean, if you're the Ducks, there's some kind of impasse there. I wonder if that's a possibility. Because it's so close to the season, there's really not a ton of teams with cap space. I look at a team like Buffalo. They've got, I think, the cap space to pull it off. I don't know if they want to be capped out, knowing that they have Eichel coming up in need of a contract pretty soon. Calgary's got the space, but they're going to have to – they got to pay Johnny Gaudreau before they can take on Jacob Trouba.
Yeah.
I think, Carolina, like you said, a lot of cap space. The Devils, I think, are screaming to me as an offer sheet fit. I think the Rangers would be a fit, but I think, if you're the Rangers, would you be just for the salary? I don't know if the salary would match, but would they be willing to throw in a Rick Nash to get it done?
I would tomorrow.
Yeah,
because in my mind, as much as I think Rick Nash is still a very productive player, I think their blue line is I think you're so desperate right now that you almost have no choice to do it. And I think I'm still against them trading for Kevin Shattenkirk because I think Kevin Shattenkirk is going to just sign with them next summer if the space is there. He's been begging to come to the Rangers for years. He grew up in New Rochelle. His dad had season tickets there. He's been a Ranger fan his whole life. He wants to come back home. Honestly, it's kind of why would you trade for him when you could just suck it up for a year and sign him next year? And then now I'm getting all hot and bothered thinking of McDonough, Trouba, Shea, and Kevin Shattenkirk as my top four. I mean, that would be pretty good. So that suddenly turns things around. So if that's the case, but it sounds like it does sound like Winnipeg is asking for a 1-for-1 deal. That being said, I mean, they're not, a good package of prospects. I don't think you could turn that down either.
Now, Winnipeg, they probably don't want to take the risk, but if you have a guy who doesn't want to be there, you basically have to get rid of him. I wonder if they could be a partner with St. Louis and swapping for Shattenkirk. I don't know if Shattenkirk would stay with Winnipeg, and you certainly run that risk.
There's that Shattenkirk's 1 year left on his contract. I mean, you better right. Winnipeg would then have to blow him away with a contract. And if they're not going to sign Trouba, it'd be kind of I know Shattenkirk has a bigger track record, but Trouba, I feel safer investing in Jacob Trouba long term. You could probably get a little bit cheaper, a little bit better cap value, and more years, and he's going to only get better. While Shattenkirk's probably got maybe 4 years more and as an elite defenseman, and then you just probably see a dip there.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Trouba thing's interesting. I think frankly, I think all the unsigned players we talked about from the World Cup.
We talk about Johnny Hockey. It's Lindholm with Anaheim. I just confirmed that. I mean, there's some guys there, and we just wish that someone would RFA just to make it interesting, just for the sake of I told you so, and to cause a little bit of September chaos as we go into training camp. I think it'd be a little bit of fun.
It looks like the Lightning are getting a deal done with Kucherov. That's what's been reported. But, a lot of these guys remain unsigned, and they're really, really important pieces to their team. I'm interested to see what happens. I hope we get something crazy, like a Johnny Hockey for a Trouba swap or something where they're just like, you know what? Like, you don't want to be here, fine. Like, you want a bigger contract, we're trading you. Like, something crazy like that is what I'm hoping for. But knowing NHL GMs, these guys are all probably going to sign tomorrow, making our podcast irrelevant.
They're all scared to make enemies for whatever reason. Yet they'll happily criticize each other, but they're always scared to make enemies.
Off the record, of course. They'll criticize.
Off the record, of course. Absolutely.
Now, training camps are starting to trickle in, so I guess we can give the listeners a tease of some NHL coverage. Anything standing out to you from the early days of training camp for some of these teams?
I mean, nothing crazy. Preseason hockey, I was watching a little bit of I watched maybe 5 minutes of the Columbus-Boston game, and I think training camp's a fun time if you're a very passionate fan about your team and just kind of see – maybe not who's going to be on the roster this year, but maybe a guy impresses you that can come down the line in a couple of years. And it's always fun to me. I think training camp games are good. And if you're a fan of fighting in the NHL, this is, preseason games are some of your last chances to get some really great fights. So there's always usually one good brawl during the preseason because you have a bunch of guys who aren't going to make the cut unless they start beating the heck out of somebody. So you can get some good fights in the preseason too, which is always a good time. But Marcus, I mean, you have the inside scoop. I mean, how's it been Fear the Fin? You guys don't know that Marcus has been covering with Fear the Fin. He's been at Sharks training camp so far. I've seen some practices, little 3-on-3 work I saw there. You were tweeting about the other day. Saw some penalty kill today. So how's that experience been for you? Any inside scoops? Any hot takes early from Sharks?
No inside scoops yet. Although the Sharks released their lineup today, but I went up to I was interviewing a player, and he confirmed he'd be in the lineup tomorrow before. And I got that scoop before, but I didn't tweet it out, so I didn't make any use of it. It's been cool. It's been cool, but it's also been a a little bit weird of a first training camp, because at least in the Sharks head, they have so many guys that just aren't there. Like it hasn't even felt really like training camp. I mean, you're missing Joe Thornton
for other reasons.
For the World Cup, precisely just for the World Cup. You're missing Joe Thornton, you're missing Joe Pavelski, you're missing Donskoy. The latter two are back. Vlasic, Burns, Couture, and then their newest signing, Michael Bodker, isn't there. And, Bodker's played under Pete DeBoer, and I want to ask him about that when he gets back. He says, I'd be worried if my new free agent signing, even if they've played for the coach before, I'd be very worried if they missed the first 2 weeks of training camp and they were at the World Cup, especially in the case of Bodker, when he's not even playing for Europe at the World Cup. He's been scratched in every single game. So I think it probably won't be too big of a deal, but it's really kind of felt weird because you look at the line combinations and, I go in the locker room after each session of practice and it just feels empty because there's two of the team's biggest personalities, five of their leaders, 6 of their best players, and then arguably their biggest name free agent signing all aren't there. It's definitely been a little weird, but it's been cool. It's been interesting. There were a lot more people the first day of training camp than there were the second day, media-wise. That was pretty fun. But, no, it's been cool, and it's been interesting. I shared this with you, but just kind of seeing the drills they run. And, I texted you about it because we were running a drill that we ran when we played together in Syracuse. And it's, no matter what level of hockey, they're doing basically the same things.
Simple game. You just got to – it's all about repetition, I think, at any level. I think people realize that, yeah.
And it's been interesting too, hearing the kind of seeing it from a different perspective, because you see the fans that are there at training camp, and then I'm just this 22-year-old kid in a polo shirt and a backpack, walking by them, going to the media room. I'm still kind of stunned that it's happening. So hopefully, I applied for a credential for tomorrow's game. We'll see what happens. The Sharks PR has been great. They've been super helpful. Great facilitating everything. It's felt really nice because they've just basically treated me like I'm another writer there, as opposed to someone writing for Fear the Fin. So it's been pretty cool. No hot takes though. No scuttlebutt.
No scuttlebutt.
Nothing that I could share. That's too crazy. But it's been good. It's been a good time. Are you going to go out to any Rangers training camp practices, you think?
It's tough for me to get out. They play out in Tarrytown, which is north of Manhattan.
Okay.
It'd be tough. It'd be kind of tough to get out there, to be honest. I'll probably go to a preseason game. I might go to the Rangers-Devils game on Saturday, which is at the Rock at the Prudential.
Oh, wow.
So I might go to that.
Enemy territory.
Yeah, with Devils insider Kevin Winstanley.
Devils insider Kevin Winstanley.
So I might go to that, and we'll see what happens. But no, I'll watch all the preseason games. I find it fun. I do my own little scouting report. Who they should keep, who they should send down, who's doing what, as I always do. Very analytical in all of it. So I happen to very much enjoy preseason hockey, and kind of just to see the young guys and some new faces, and maybe the future of your team could be playing there. I mean, who knows? And I think it's an opportunity for a lot of fans to kind of get introduced to what your organization thinks of players and how they scout them, and see the guys they're bringing in, and they could either make you happy or sad, depending on your perspective, I guess you could say.
If they're bringing in Max Lapierre, they're probably making you sad.
Well, yeah, the Rangers are running the scary fourth line of Max Lapierre, Tanner Glass, and some other guy I don't even think I heard of tomorrow night. So I'm real psyched that AV is already he's putting fear into my hearts that he's gonna start playing Max Lapierre over Brandon Peary or Michael Grabner or Nathan Gerbe on the fourth line or something like that. So it's I'm already nervous. So that's good.
Okay, so it sounds like we're both pretty excited for the preseason. We both say Canada. I'm gonna say 3 games just because I want it max craziness. What is your final prediction for the World Cup?
I want to say 2 games, but Europe's been playing well, and they've surprised me. So I'm not going to underestimate Europe. I'll say 3 games also. I still think Canada takes it, though.
I do, too, and I do have a hot take. I think within 2 years, Ralph Kruger is the head coach of an NHL team. I saw this floated out by the score writer, Ian McLaren, and I think seeing what he's done with a motley crew, if you're the team in Vegas, he's got to be at the top of your list, seeing what he's done. Before we sign off, we should talk about, weren't there more rumored names and they're all terrible? now? Like, didn't a new crop of terrible Knights just come
all
out?
the Desert Knights and the Silver Knights. It's all just a load of garbage. I mean, just the NHL is just. Oh, it's gonna be. It better be a good name. Like they've now pushed it back. It was originally going to be in mid-October. They've now said early November when they're going to release the team name and all the information and start, selling merchandise and all that fun stuff. I mean, who knows? They seem infatuated with Knights just because the guy went to Army and he wanted it to be like the Black Knights kind of thing. I mean, why they would? I mean,
that'd be like if we owned a team and decided to name it after a fruit because of the Syracuse orange. That we're like,
what the hell, man? Just they're trying to avoid the whole they're trying to avoid gambling, but I'm like, dude, you're in Las Vegas. Like, what the hell? Like, you want to avoid gambling with like your team name, but you're going to like the gambling capital of the world. Like, come on,
you can't ignore it. Like,
you can't ignore it. Like, how is this team needs to just be named the Aces, even if it was the Black Aces? That's just fine. Just do that. Like, stop overthinking this. You're just being absolutely ridiculous. It's stupid. It should be the Aces or, even the Jokers, which is a little bit more minor league-ish, but it's ridiculous. Anything desert. I'm not a fan of teams for the most part. I'm not a fan of teams that have like an adjective in front of the name.
Nor am I. I think
it's different if it was, the Red Wings or the Blue Jackets, which is just a color. But with the exception of the Mighty Ducks, which was named after a Disney franchise, so you know why it's called the Mighty Ducks. No one should have that in the front of the name.
I agree.
Like the backyard, it's like backyard sports with like the super duper wombats,
No, it literally is. It literally are they going to just have like the giant feet and be the Giants? Like, are they going to be the mighty wombats? Like, I'd rather have that than the Desert
Super wombats. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, anything. Yeah.
Now we got to talk about the Lynx in the room, the Edmonton Oilers' terrifying new mascot.
Oh my God! Did you see that thing? Social media is blowing up today. That thing was weird, dude. I didn't even know what it was at first. I was like, I saw someone like tweet it, and like, I thought it was a joke. And then I was like, why the hell did the Oilers have a lynx as a mascot? Like, and
that's the first question. Why do they have a mascot?
Like, first off, why do you have a mascot? Your name is the Oilers. You don't need a mascot. You've been a team that's been around for, since 1979 into the NHL. You were in the WHA for 7 years prior. Fairly, granted in recent times, the last decade they've sucked. But, I mean, they've had a long history of success in this league. And they decide, you know what, guys, you know what we need here? Let's not worry about our blue line. Let's worry about getting a mascot. And, when Edmonton Oilers, I, of course, think – the small North American feline, the lynx, that comes up in very intimidating fashion. I know it's a Minnesota, the Minnesota Lynx, I think it is, or there's a WNBA Lynx, which is fine. Okay, they could have a Lynx mascot because that's their name, but I don't understand. What are they doing? Why do you need a stupid mascot?
The CSN Bay Area Sharks insider Kevin Kurz tweeted that the mascot reminds him of Peter Griffin dressed up as the No Trash Cougar. I've also seen that the Lynx.
That's what I've heard. That's good.
The Lynx as a mascot is fitting because there'll be Lynx in April. There's been a lot of really, really good responses.
That's good.
To this mascot. I mean, it's one of the more terrifying things I've ever seen. It's not particularly cute. It's not particularly sensical. It's just kind of out of nowhere on so many levels. But I mean,
I didn't even hear about them releasing a mascot. So all of a sudden, today I opened. It was I was a little. I opened Twitter and then I closed the door again this morning because it was oh my goodness, it was so funny. I don't understand.
I think that it's just a perfect metaphor for the current state of the Edmonton Oilers franchise. It's just something that's meant to drum up excitement and meant to be kind of cool. Isn't really that cool at all. There's really not, there's some things that, I don't want to say that there's a deeper metaphor here with Connor McDavid's future on the team, but, maybe there is. It makes too much sense that it's the Oilers of all teams dropping this match. When do they add? Is it because they're moving to the new arena? I don't understand it at all.
Maybe a youth movement kind of thing. They're trying to attract kids with a mascot. I have no idea. I couldn't even. Oh, you.
Did Connor McDavid did he ask for this? Like, that's the only thing that makes sense to me. If he went in, it's like, look, I won't ask for $10 million a year if you give us a Lynx related mascot. Why do you like the Lynx, Connor? I don't know, because they're kind of badass. Like, that's the only way I can envision this having gone down.
I have no clue. It's a weird mascot.
I was just looking up this one. I was just looking up an article collecting information, the reactions to it. But breaking news: I've just been informed that Ilya Bryzgalov had a take on Canada-Russia, and we can't.
Oh! Did you see this article? Oh, it's so funny. Read it, please.
No, I've not read it, but I'm reading it right now. He gave Craig Custon's analysis of the Canada in the 2010 Olympics. He described them as coming out of like gorillas out of a cage. They came on the ice. They were ready. They were prepared. They came to win. They outplay us. They were better than us in every aspect of the game. Not gorillas, he said, or like the orcs from The Hobbit. You watched that movie, right? Big, mean, scary. Why is this mentioned?
Well, first off, I mean, two things that we need to be said here is that Ilya Bryzgalov needs to be back in the NHL like yesterday.
Yes.
Because I don't care if he's a player. I don't care if he's an analyst. I mean, I know he can't speak any English. Put Bryzgalov in between the benches with Doc and Eddie Olchuk. That is TV gold, made in heaven right there. Get Pierre out. Let's see. I mean, I'm all for it.
Give me a booth with Ilya Bryzgalov and Brett Hull in the same broadcast booth.
Just hot. First off, Brett Hull's the kind of guy to just be sitting there and going, with that raspy voice in those eyes. What the hell he just say? Like, I
think you're right there, Briz.
On the air, and then Bryzgalov would have to ask, Brett, why are you mad? It's only game.
Could have moderated tonight's debate.
Oh, things that should be a Twitter account.
He may have done a comparable job to Lester Holt tonight.
Oh, poor Lester. We could have our political podcast another day.
We could do a whole show, but
okay.
Donald, why you have to be mad? It's only debate.
Donald.
Oh man, so okay, so we've done our World Cup of Hockey final preview. When should we tell the listeners we'll be back next? What are we going to do next? How do you want to do our coverage to preview the season? You think in division by division, team by team, podcast episodes? The world's our oyster, Connell. We should.
The world's our oyster. Yeah, I'm up for anything. Frankly, I think it'd be a lot of fun. I mean, I know in the past we've done our kind of went division by division. So, yeah, maybe we'll break it up and we could do 4 little ones and go each division. And then maybe the last one we can kind of rank and give our, foolproof, never wrong Stanley Cup predictions. And
I don't think we've ever been wrong in our 3 years.
I've never been wrong. I mean, I've never said one thing that hasn't been true on this show. You could fact check that. That's my Donald Trump impression right there. So, yeah, I think we'll wind up doing that. And we got about 2 weeks here left until the season opens here. But yeah, 2 weeks from tomorrow would be Wednesday night rivalry hockey on NBC, and crazy to think we're back out of here. Marcus, are you going to be emotionally? How are you ready to get back into the season?
I think I'm ready. How much I've missed the sport of hockey and how much I'm glad it's back. As the ads say, first they play for your country, then they play for you. Or their country, then they play for you. Liev Schreiber narrating. So I'm really looking forward to that. That's going to be a lot of fun, and looking forward to continuing to talk puck as the season goes along with you, Connell. These are always fun. I always look forward to these. So.
Oh, absolutely, it's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of excitement. So keep your eye out, folks. Over the course of the next 2 weeks, we'll hopefully have, I would say, somewhere between 2 and 4 shows, depending on what we decide to do as far as the breakdown of the divisions, or if we want to go conference by conference and whatnot. But thanks.
We will not be going team by team. I can confirm.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think we have time for 30 shows. I think 2 to 4 could definitely happen. So keep an eye out, guys. Thanks for listening. Be sure to watch the World Cup of Hockey final this upcoming weekend here. 2 out of 3 series. So we'll see who wins it there. both have Canada pulling it out, but we see Europe pulling out at least one win there. We'll see what happens from there. As always, thank you guys. Stay safe out there. Enjoy free season and training camp. We'll see you soon.
Take care.